Wow, that went quite suddenly. All right, I think we'll get started then in that case. Well, good afternoon now. We're into our next session in the banking stream, and this is, as you can see, enabling strategic decision making. And we're lucky enough to have two incredible clients of ours, ING and Adveco, to talk through this. And we have two representatives from there. So Stephen Putz. So Stephen's an expert lead in financial controlling and heads the team of consolidation and business advice at ING Germany. Obviously an experienced lead in finance, manager of IT projects, and has a long history of working in the banking industry with information technology. And he'll be joined by Christian Rund from Adveco. Christian's focused on risk management, asset liability management, credit limits, and liquidity management. He's a team lead at Adveco and responsible for the topics regarding this as the project manager, business architect, and developer. If you put your hands together. Welcome, gents. Please take us.
Okay, hello and welcome again. I think everyone is starting with a warm welcome, so I will do it so as well. I'm very excited to be up here and to give you some insights on our currently running project. We want you to come with us on our journey for 30 minutes now with us. So we want to show you how we do the strategic decision-making at ING with SAP PAPM, so Profitability and Performance Management, formerly known as FSPER, and SAP Fiori. So today we want to tell you where we came from, where we want to go, and what we are going to achieve, and what we already achieved till now. We had the speaker before stole some of my words already, so I'm just heading over that then. So I'm Christian Runde from Adveco, and now since more than 15 years in banking and IT projects and at Adveco, and now, since 2018, I'm developing and leading projects in PAPM. I started with FSPER 2.0, so and now it's PAPM 3.0, I think, and Now I want to hand over to Stefan, who will take you through the first half of our presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much for your introduction, Christian. I'm Stefan Putz, head of financial controlling at ING Germany, and now for 10 years at ING, had several positions in IT and IT finance in the past, and initiated the project which is called My P&L, and where we're going to talk about today from the scratch 2 years ago, which will then in an end state enable us and improve the time and effort needed for preparing strategic decisions from a financial point of view. We will share you further insights on our journey by starting with an overarching purpose. So what is the purpose of the project? In the beginning, the outcome and requirements after an intensive design thinking phase in the beginning. And then I will talk and walk you through our target solution and show you what do we already have implemented so far, with which P&L components you will have a bit of look and feel, and afterwards then I will hand over to Christian again to explain you a bit more about the SAP modules we make use of PAPM, but as well as Fiori, then from a technical point of view, summarizing then a bit our common journey, and afterwards there is some time left for your question and answers. So let me start with the purpose. The purpose of our project is to enable an improved planning and reporting process, as well as cost allocation for ING Germany, and really solve the problem and the pain that in the past most forecasting of costs, but as well of revenue components, was simply carried out by Excel, and a lot of time effort were needed for that. So we will integrate and integrated cost components, all revenue components of a P&L, and in an end, in a user-friendly interface, which allows then self-service for each and every manager to update their forecast. Having said that, my P&L is 1 out of 5 projects of our finance digitalization strategy at ING Germany, which will gain efficiencies and improve processes throughout digitalization. Now I would like to give you a bit an example which shows how complex and manual the overall process was in the past, and you simply see a lot of Excel spreadsheets, but that's a very good example how we and which process steps were necessary in the past to get an updated staff expense forecast. So just walking very quick through it, we received a long list of input parameters, especially on average wages per cost center from HR. Then every single controller in my team prepared input files, input requests on FDE and staff planning for the next months and years. Sent that out to all business units leads. They were filling that in, sending it back, and then the controller used a standard Excel template to calculate an up-to-date forecast, and the outcome was then just loaded in a current 20-years-old database in Business Warehouse. It was just in an end one figure where you said, okay, the staff cost forecast was 1 million. So you see a lot of Excel spreadsheets in an end. The whole process when getting an up-to-date forecast took 2 to 3 weeks, and well, there were more than hundreds of Excels flying around before getting accurate data. And a good example, and maybe one statement of a famous statement of Homer Simpson, Excel is not a database, and when seeing that, I think that's totally true. And there was a lot of pain, not only on our side, but also on the lead side, by requesting and asking for input again and again of data, which, well, it might be available in another system or what else. So it was really a painful exercise till last quarter. Before now talking about the target solution, let me start with the business requirements we collected in the beginning after an intensive design thinking phase with all stakeholders involved, so from our finance team, but as well as with leads up to the board and so on. So the overarching requirement or purpose was to get in an end an integrated tooling to manage all financials for ING Germany, and which allows and provides self-service for every single cost center manager and lead in a user-friendly interface. And the following requirements are just a summary of a list of more than 200 points, but I think it explains quite well the complexity and what everything should be captured. So the whole planning and forecasting of CapEx, but as well as OpEx positions of our cost base should be carried out. And the request was to do that and enable that on a granular level, so that you don't only plan one amount, €1,000 for a certain license, but you really type in, okay, this is the kind of license and potential driver behind it, and so on. Another requirement was to get an interface to our general ledger and then allow or provide a kind of list, okay, these are every single bookings made on a certain date, and you just click on it, and the cost center manager can open the invoice behind it and do not store it in a separate shared file or what else. Of course, from a finance point of view, costs are important, but revenue components are even more important, and we wanted to get our fee income calculation away from Excel tooling based, as well as the integration of our interest income forecast, which is carried out by a separate system, but should be integrated as well. Overall, we wanted to have simulation capabilities, which even becomes way more important in current times with uncertainty around inflation and potential impact on staff expenses. Just imagine if someone asks you, okay, what might be the impact? And you say, well, I can tell you in 2 or 3 weeks. That's not that nice. Yeah, next to that, we wanted to have the opportunity then to start an internal cost allocation. And further requirements was from our IT colleagues to implement a standard tooling. There was a requirement to get a kind of commentary functionality to see, okay, I have now certain updates and these are the driver behind it and I just type it in. It should support a workflow management for certain process and approval steps required, a versioning concept, automated quality checks, so is now a deviation of 99% correct? No, not, and a button is plopping up. And in the end, that was crucial as well, that the tooling needed to support more than 100 different roles and user access rights, well, for different leads. Yeah, these were basically the requirements we collected and the purpose. And now I will tell you a bit about the target solution, which we called MyPL. And why MyPL? Very simple, because you just click on it and see the components you're in charge for. Process-wise, we're making use of our SAP landscape and built interfaces to the HR system, S4, business warehouse, our ERP system, and further modules will follow. Then, for calculating and getting an up-to-date forecast, we're using PAPM as a strong calculation engine. For instance, on the staff forecast example, where you have certain drivers, but same for CapEx and depreciation planning or fee income planning. When the forecast is updated and all financials are then stored in our golden source, we call it now in a completely new environment, new box in our business warehouse system. And yeah, a nice interface and front end for end users for their self-service is now or has been built in SAP Fiori, where I will show you the bit of look and feel now later on. Yeah, in MyPL, I summarize it a bit into 6 components, which are carried out and calculated via PAPM. So, and there we're making use of the calculation engine and doing a driver-based simulation. So on staff expense planning, we just had the example, what do you use? We were making really use of every single salary up to the FTEs we're knowing for 60 months in the future. Then the calculation engine is running and the new forecast is in the system. But in an end, the cost center manager or the business unit lead, they just update, okay, in the future I need 2 guys more, or I know that these guys are leaving, and 30 seconds later the forecast on costs is updated. Same applies for OPEX planning, like licenses, where you just type in, okay, I need 100 license and it costs 30 euros, or same for run and also for our change activities. On CapEx and the depreciation planning, there is an interface to our general ledger, and every single good where then the depreciation duration and amount per month is getting calculated and reflected in the forecast. And point 1 to 3, so on the cost side, this is what we already have implemented so far and where we went live. What will now follow in the upcoming months is the fee income calculation based on drivers like business volume, type of fee, number of transaction, and so on, and the integration of the interest income planning. And of course, for us as bank, it's also important and an aim in an end to get our capital planning done via PAPM and MyPL. Yeah, finally, I would like to show you the look and feel for cost center managers. So this is based on SAP Fiori and how it is already implemented, where every lead has an overview about his budget utilization, his year-to-date cost development, including, excluding accruals, so cash out or non-cash out. It provides an overview about the planned FTEs, actual FTEs, and so on. And if they want to update their forecast, they simply click on a button, come to another page where they then insert, okay, on this position I need 10K more, 10K less, or whatever. The engine is running in the background, and a few seconds later you see the updated forecast. That applies for every role, up to then, well, overall domains and total bank view. Next to that, for a bit of nice usability, we also implemented some buttons to the payment system, to the procurement system, and so on, really to have everything on one central cockpit to enable to manage their financials. And by that, we're gaining and reducing the time needed to get an up-to-date forecast and plenty of Excel spreadsheets, and heavily already increased the time needed to prepare a strategic decision-making based on reliable financial data. Yeah, by having said that, I'm now handing over and leave the floor to Christian Runde, telling you a bit more about PAPM and Fiori and how we're technically making use of that.
Thank you. So, as Stefan said, we will now see a bit PAPM at a glance, it's called. So I will give you some general words to PAPM for everyone not knowing it. So, and why we did our decision, or ING did their decision to go with PAPM. So on the left-hand side, you see the integration with standard functions in PAPM, interfaces to SAP and non-SAP systems and softwares and databases. And the main advantage of PAPM is that it has no own data model. So you are inheriting your data model from the interface you connect. You do not need this huge and long-taking ETL process. So it's extracting, transforming, loading, it's ETL. And always transforming is often a problem in every project or a long phase. So I've been in a project with a third-party software, and I had to change a date format for the date. It was 4 digits for the year, a minus, 3 letters for the month, FEB for February, a minus, and the date. I think it took me around about 80 lines of ABAP coding to change the date format from SAP just for that one field. You do not need that in PAPM because you are just inheriting, getting what you connect. And so that makes it so easy to really speed up and then present results in a short period of time. So you are just loading data by Excel, for example, a few lines, and then you're going to your logic, you build functions, and you can present some results to the business units directly after a few days, few hours. And then you can enhance your model. You can see, is my logic from the business side, is it what I want to? And you do not have to bring an ETL 6 months and then see that the software you choose is not doing what you want to do. In the middle, high speed, I think it's coming from the HANA database, which is underneath PAPM. And PAPM is a function model. It's a bit of building blocks, yes? So you just put functions after functions and use the results of the former function. And it's clickable, and it's not really developing because you have a code push down, and the HANA SQL is written by the software for you on the database. So, and having said that, it is HANA optimized SQL, so you do not have to be a good programmer. Integration, I said, it's really easy with PAPM, and so there are custom specific use cases. As I said, you can enhance your models by working. It's totally good for agile working that you can, in every sprint, you enhance your model, and you do not have fixed content all the time that you have to change your data to get the results. You just change your logic or your formulas. At ING Germany, we are using PAPM as a calculation engine. So you bring in your FTEs, you push a button, and then you get the costs for your FTEs, like salaries, Christmas bonus, and things like that. A workflow engine is coming with PAPM, so you can have the workflow engine. We are using it for the processes with the process engine. For budget approval process and things like that. You have to email change and who is the lead who can give the approval. It's coming out of PAPM. And, but there's some lacks or gaps in PAPM we just covered with Fiori. Even SAP module. Why did we use Fiori there? Because in PAPM, it is not the best data input tool, to be honest. It's on a table screen, and it's not so clickable, intuitive like Fiori can be with its list pages and things like that. And Fiori is then a major dashboard with a unique design, with a unique ING design, with their colors, with their pictures and things like that. And for the user, you always have your unique entry point. Every page, every tile is looking the same. You always know the save button is down right or up left. You can filter, and everything is then built in Fiori. Fiori, as I said, at a glance, it is integrated on SAP and non-SAP software as well, like PAPM do. So we are using it at ING to put your data in, to give you data for planning. For example, you just see your month, you give your monthly salaries or costs, and you push a button, then you're triggering PAPM as a calculation engine. It's calculating, and Fiori is showing you the results, and then you push the next button for save, and then PAPM is triggered again, and is saving it in the business warehouse or wherever we want. In our case, it is the business warehouse. And so that is why we are using Fiori and PAPM in combination. And my next slide is, again, an update or a ramp up of our benefits, why we use these tools in combination. So as I said, we have in-memory technology in PAPM. I think the SAP standard slogan is a million of records in seconds. So it is great for every customer to use PAPM because it is producing a million of records in seconds, and in-memory, ad hoc. You push a button and you get your results. Then I come to the third point, because it's fitting there. You can do ad hoc simulations by just running, and you do not save any data. You're not persisting data because it is doing it on the fly in memory, and only when you really want to save your data, you save it. The Fiori brings one dashboard for all users and all applications with a unique ING design. As I said, it's intuitive. It will be then always the same on every page. You will always find the buttons in the same place. And that's easy for every user, for management, to the one who has to enter the data. PAPM is directly connecting to the source systems, so it's not pulling data in and saving it somewhere. It's bringing just the data in memory. It's directly accessing the databases, so you're not doubling your data. You have no double data storage and things like that. We are saving all calculated data in one place, so we are creating a golden source of data, and we are only saving the data we need to. And mostly for versioning and things like that. Because we can always reproduce the data again by pushing a button and running it on the fly again, because it's just taking seconds. PAPM was there at, in the beginning, it's in some places a bit oversized because the calculation engine is much bigger than what we are doing in the beginning of our project phase, but the complexity will increase in the next steps or from day to day in our project. So we decided to go with PAPM from beginning. So yeah, because later on, as Stefan said, we will come to allocations and bigger calculation complexity. And you can build it in PAPM, and you can always enhance your model and see what is working or what is working not. And you do not have to lose any data or any complexity, because you do not have to aggregate or group or sum up something to come through these bottlenecks, because you have to come from 100 million records to just 1 million record, because your engine can only work with 1 million records. You do not have to do that, and so you keep the complexity from the start till end, even for every single record. Yeah, and Fiori, again, single point of contact, this one unique selling point for the customer, for the business department, for the leads, always one look and feel, and everything in one page. Having said that, we have a short picture of our joint journey. We see a bit reaching for the stars. And you see the rocket in the middle, that is where we are now. We had a go live yesterday. So with the first part, yeah, we are struggling with some roles and things like that, but everyone knows that it's always after a go live. And now we are kicking off MVP 2. It is then, cost is finished, and now we're going to the revenues to have a full-fledged solution in the end. But Stefan will again take over to tell you and start here, where we started a few years ago.
Oh, well, very briefly before we're coming to your questions. So as mentioned, 2 years ago, we initiated the project from the scratch by an extensive design thinking phase with all relevant stakeholders and preparing some first mock-ups for decision making. It took half a year or something like that before getting these long lists. And we took our time for the software selection process, and after some time we then decided for this combination between PIPM and Fiori for the reasons which Christian already explained. Setting the overall project team was then set up last year in autumn before we really start the implementation phase in November last year. And that's really live and very nice to see now after half a year or a bit more than half a year time that, well, the half part of the P&L, so all cost components are already implemented, and we're now kicking off the income part. And I guess that we will finalize the income part also already this year, end of the year, and then taking next year some time for an internal cost allocation engine, capital planning, and stuff like that. Okay, when you see that pictures, I think now it's time for your questions and answers.
Thank you, gentlemen. Very interesting. We have plenty of questions for you. Let's start at the bottom. Stefan, thank you for the presentation. After my P&L, which other business use cases are you visualizing to leverage PM, sorry?
Yeah, well, so far, I mean, this is the journey on cost components and income components, but what is really nice to see other business units reaching out to us, well, can we make use of the same system and modules as well? And in particular, these are risk management and our colleagues from Treasury. So I guess, and that would be nice to see then somewhere next year after this journey is finalized, getting risk cost forecasted also in my P&L.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Stefan and Christian. I wonder to which extent IFRS specific logic like IFRS 9 was required.
Well, in an end, and this is also crucial, we're making use of two general ledger or multi-gaps. So on the one hand, we're steering costs internally after or with IFRS, but to the same time, as we're a bank in Germany, also need to report as HGB, so local GAAP, and the overall system supports both or the multi-gap view.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. What were the limitations of S4 allocations that caused you to look at using PAPM?
Pardon?
Sorry, what were the limitations of S4 allocations that caused you to look at using PAPM?
Basically, the strong calculation engine and the data we're making use of. Just for an example, on the depreciation planning, or in German it's called Anlagebuchhaltung, that's a list of more than 100,000 goods like chairs with each own depreciation time and so on. And we're really using mass data for a lot of data for CapEx planning. On staff expense planning, it's already, well, a bit less, but still a lot of data. But furthermore, on the income planning, there we're talking about, well, millions of data, and this is the reason why we choose for PAPM.
Thank you. What has the user feedback been like, and how do you think about user engagement across this project and the other digitalization projects at ING Germany?
Well, for getting the real user feedback, so of more than 100 users, there we're speaking 1 week too early. As Christian mentioned, the go live is actually right now. But we had a kind of sounding board and multiple leads involved. And of course, everyone has their requirements. Well, this field might be cool if it is green or red or something like that. And in an end, we prioritized and have now a first central cockpit where we're going live with, but a team of Fiori developers, more and more functionalities will follow.
Brilliant, thank you. And one last one, if I may. How did you approach the project, traditional or agile? How long did it take to get the first results?
Well, that's an interesting combination. So, or a combination of both. So first of all, together with Adveco, we did a concrete planning and provided them all business requirements, and it took, well, I think it was 4 weeks or something like that to prepare a kind of project plan. Started the project then in November in a kind of combination. So every 2 weeks we're having a sprint planning, review planning a whole morning. But to the same time, of course, there is the overarching big picture we're steering on, and the most goal was now to go live this summer or this week and do our internal planning process for the upcoming years with it.
Fantastic. Thank you for your insight, gentlemen. Very much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, Stefan and Christian.